Hey guys, let's learn a method for quickly making reverse reverb in Reaper that sounds like this.
I've wasted an eternity standing still. It's time to move forward.
So that's just the classic ghost sound from Everything Ever. And it's a bit of a manual process to create sometimes. So let's look at some time saving tricks. Real quick, we'll see what our track layout is. I've got our main voice on this core track. And then we've got our reverb track down here. Let's go ahead and copy all of our files down to that track. The reverb track is running into a reverb bus that strictly is just sidechain compressing, and the sidechain is obviously coming from the core voice. And then all of our tracks are running into this bus up here that has some very slight reverb to glue everything together and compression to smooth it. All right, so some of those steps are maybe needed, maybe not, depending on what you're doing. Let's get to the actual creating reverse reverb part. There is an action where I've pieced together most of the things that are needed, and let's look at what's in that action. So the first thing is we're going to highlight all of the files that are on the reverb track and put on our effects. So in this case, I have a high pass and I have a reverb at 100% mix. You could go down to 40 or 50% depending on what your chain is and such, but right now we're going for the classic sound, so we'll keep 100% mix. So our action is going to reverse all of our items, then it will apply the track effects here to those items, then it will reverse the items again so that they're once again playing forward with the reverb baked in backwards. Then, from our boy Aaron Senden, we're going to extend the left edge of our items to give a bit of a lead in, and then we will apply a fade so that we are fading in rather than hard leading in. So let's go ahead and apply this reverse reverb. It is now baked it all in. We'll extend our left edge, so we need to go negative, and then I want 300 milliseconds, so that would be negative 0.3. We've just extended all of these files, as you can see. I want this to fade in a little bit longer than our extension so that it can blend nicely into the core voice and give the sidechain compression time to kick in. So we'll extend it by 0.35, giving it an extra 50 milliseconds compared to our lead in. And then I just happen to also like a 0.3 for the curve. And so that is all done. Cool. The next step is I'm going to bypass this initial reverb that we baked in, and I'm going to check a different reverb that is much less extreme and has a lower mix to just kind of smooth it all over. And let's hear this track soloed. And then with the other VO.
I've wasted an eternity standing still. It's time to move forward.
So if you needed your reverse reverb to tie closer to the main voice, then my recommendation would be to drop down the mix of the reverb that you're baking in and potentially add a couple extra plugins that add interesting movement to the signal down here on that reverb track. And that allows it to still sound interesting, but because you wouldn't be completely smothering it in verb, some of the voice will poke through, and then our nice little human brains will hear the voice on the reverb track and hear the voice on the core track and glue them together as we listen to them in our heads. So the next thing is somehow we have to get this out of the DAW, right? This sounds cool, but these are multiple files. How do we do that? So I find the best method in most circumstances is to highlight all of our files on the top core track here. And we'll go ahead and make regions and name them by the item. So here we're going to create regions from selected items named by active take. So that is pretty close of what we need, except, oh no, the region is cutting off the reverb, the reverb files here. So that's not going to be great because it will just start playing without our lead in. But if you recall, we extended that lead in by 300 milliseconds, so we know exactly what we need to do. We can run this plugin, this action here, extend all regions left edge by length. So we'll just extend them all by 0.3, which now makes the regions include everything we needed. If you had made different tweaks at different times to different regions, sometimes you might not want to extend all of your regions by left edge length and only some of them. There is an equivalent action to this that extends all regions within the time selection. So you're not always married to doing all of your regions at once. Okay, so now let's go to our export, and we will export through the region render matrix via master. And we want to export all the project regions. But we can't click on the file. What's going on? We can't click render because there's no files, supposedly. But we've got regions. Well, our regions are not rendering to anywhere. With regions, you have to go into the region marker manager and say what you want. If you want to render the stems, certain tracks, the master mix. And so typically you're going to want the master mix. But instead of needing to always come in here and remembering to select all of the files or all of the regions and dealing with maybe thousands of these and trying to make sure that no mistakes are creeping in anywhere, we can just click this button that renders master mix for all regions and click that, and boom, we've got 3 files, and we could render these 3 files and they would be lovely. So the whole process to show how quick it is by itself is we've got our files, we pull them down, we go ahead and apply the reverb, we decide what we want to extend the length by, we decide what we want our fade and our curve to be. Now that that's done, we go ahead and select our top files, we'll apply our regions to them, we'll extend all regions by the length of our extension on the reverb. And as you can see, all the other files also, or all the other regions also just extended since I did extend all regions instead of just within a time selection. And then we will render our master mix, and all of our regions are rendered to the master mix. And there you go. Thanks.